Hey, what's up guys? Hardleg Joe here with your What a Deck profile for the Cubic Burn deck. I'm just going to go through everything in here, and then I'll explain how this beast works. So we have 3 Crimson Nova, the Dark Cubic Lord, 3 Duja, the Media Cubic Vessel, 2 Summoner Monk, 1 Buster Gundil, the Cubic Behemoth, 1 Blade Garudia, the Cubic Beast, 3 Dark Garnix, the Cubic Beast, and 3 V-Jam, the Cubic Seed. For our spells, we have 3 Galaxy Cyclone, 3 Fusion Conscription, 3 Cubic Wave, 1 Upstart Goblin, 3 Dark World Dealings, and 3 Cubic Karma. For our traps, we have 3 Unification of the Cubic Lords, 2 Ceasefire, and 3 Barrel Behind the Door. For the extra deck, the only 2 important cards in here are Crimson Nova Trinity, the Dark Cubic Lord, and Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Gustav Max. Everything else in here is just kind of a toolbox. We can make rank 4s fairly consistently, especially with Summoner Monk. We've got a couple rank 2s because we can get that out occasionally, and a couple rank 1s because we can get some 1s out occasionally. But none of them are essential to the deck. You can pretty much play whatever you want. I'd recommend at least 1 Silent Honor Arc and 1 Castell, but again, not really important to the deck. So, how do you operate this deck? Well, the main key player is Crimson Nova, the Dark Cubic Lord. This can only be special summoned by revealing 3 other cubic cards in your hand and cannot be special summoned other ways. It is unaffected by monster effects whose original attack is 3,000 or less. If it destroys a monster by battle, it can attack again. And most importantly, during the end phase, each player takes 3,000 damage. So already this is kind of a behemoth. It can't be Castell. Like, you can Raigeki and get rid of it with spell traps and stuff, but they can't use monster effects to get rid of it. Most monster effects. It can attack twice with 3,000, and then at the end phase it just inflicts 3,000 to both of you. So you combo that with Barrel Behind the Door. This says activate only when a card effect would inflict damage to you is activated. Your opponent takes the damage instead. So instead of both players taking 3,000, your opponent takes 6,000 and you take nothing. You combine that with Ceasefire, which does 500 damage for every effect monster on the field, and you can pretty much burn people to death in like 1 turn, maybe 2. Well, obviously you have to have 2 because these are traps, but you could burn people really quickly if this doesn't already just beat them down into oblivion. So because this is such a key player, we want to get this out as fast as possible. That's why we run Fusion Conscription. This helps you search it out. It's reveal 1 fusion monster from your extra deck and add 1 of the materials. That's why we run this Crimson Nova Trinity. It's 3 of these Crimson Nova, the Dark Cubic Lords. So if you activate Fusion Conscription, you could add this from your deck to your hand. Fusion Conscription says you can't normal summon or special summon monsters with that name or use their effects the same turn you do this, so you have to wait a turn, but this deck stalls pretty well, and you need a turn anyway to set your Barrel Behind the Door and your Ceasefire, so don't worry too much about that. Just get this as soon as you possibly can, and try to keep 3 cubics in your hand so you can summon it. You can also search it with Cubic Karma. This has an effect when it's activated that I'll go over later. The most important thing about it is when it's in the graveyard, you can banish it to add a cubic monster from your deck to your hand. So you could search this, or you could search any of your other cubic ones if you wanted. The second most important of the cubics is Duja. When this card is normal or special summoned, you can send 1 cubic card from your deck to the graveyard. So this lets you, if you normal summon it, you can put Cubic Karma in the graveyard and then immediately banish it to search for Crimson Nova or any of your other cubic monsters. It has an additional effect that if this Cubic Seed is sent to the graveyard this turn, you can make this card gain 200 attack for every monster with a different name in the graveyard. It's not that important, but it is there. You can do a little extra attack if you need to. I mean, 1600's not too bad, and you do have some ways to lower and raise its attack. So since this can essentially search out Crimson Nova, we're playing 2 Summoner Monk. We have a lot of spells, and a lot of them have effects in the graveyard. So Summoner Monk's a great choice, lets you special summon Duja, who then can dump something in the graveyard and let you search out. You can also, if you need to, just use another Summoner Monk or another Duja and make rank 4s. Most of the time, if I'm making like a Silent Honor Arc or a Castell, it's because of Summoner Monk. The weirdest part of this deck, probably V-Jam, the Cubic Seed. Key to the cubic archetype, but I don't really run that many cubics. Cannot be destroyed by battle. At the end of the damage step, if this card battled an opponent's monster, you can place this card face up in the spell trap zone as a continuous spell, and if you do, place 1 cubic counter on that opponent's monster. Monsters with cubic counters cannot attack, and also their effects are negated. And then while this is treated as a continuous spell, during your main phase you can special summon this out. So this is Stall Supreme. This is just like a Marshmallow, except for when they attack it, you can make your opponent basically Fiendish Chain your opponent with a counter, and then just special summon it back out again. You gotta be careful with it because you gotta choose to activate that effect. So if they have like 5 monsters, you probably don't want to do it on the first one because then they'll have free reign to attack you. but a lot of the cubics run off this, the rest of them that we play, Dark Garnix that we play 3 of, can't be normal summoned or set. Must be special summoned by sending 1 cubic monster you control to the graveyard. Then it gains 1,000 attack. If it destroys a monster by battle, target up to 2 of these in the graveyard, special summon them, and then add this guy from your deck to your hand, which is why we only play 1 of them, because this can be searched. And also, this is kind of similar, they all run the same kind of effect. Like, can't be normal summoned or set. You can only special summon it by sending 2 cubics you control to the graveyard, but it gains 3,000 attack. And then if it destroys a monster, you can add this one. This one is 3 cubics, and it gains 3,000. So, tribute 1, summon out 2 of these, get the one that lets you summon with 2. This one lets you summon out 3 of these, and get you the one that summons with 3. If you can go through that whole thing, like going between those, this guy's actually pretty good. He gains 3,000 attack when it's summoned by this way. It can make a second and a third attack during each battle phase. And if it is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card by any means, you can target 3 cubics in your graveyard and special summon them, which I believe doesn't affect Crimson Nova, because this can only be special summoned that one way. But you could still summon out, like, 3 of these or 3 V-Jam, and then you can also send 1 cubic card from your deck to your graveyard. So again, you're getting more search power. Like, if this thing is a beast at 3,000 and attacking 3 times, and then if it's removed, you get to summon 3 monsters and send a card from your deck to the graveyard. Like, it's just amazing. It's just a pity that getting it out requires having 3 of these on the field, which can be kind of tricky. Usually once your opponent realizes what this does, they'll just use Castell or something to send it back, or they'll blow it up with a card effect. But that's the basic cubic engine. Everything else in here, like Galaxy Cyclone is our spell trap removal, or can be discarded with Summoner Monk, used in the graveyard. Dark World Dealings is just to get through your deck faster, try to get to Crimson Nova. Plus again, putting this in the graveyard, both useful. Cubic Wave, target 1 cubic monster you control and 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Your monster's attack is doubled, and your opponent's monster's attack is halved. So this is really good if you wanted to do cubics the way they're supposed to be. Like, this only has 1,000 attack, but you can bump it up to 2,000 and have their attack. So beating something by battle, much easier. Most likely what you'll be using it is to put this up to 6,000 and just get over everything. And that attack decrease and increase, like, stays even after this card. It's not until, like, the end phase or something. This also has the effect that if it's in the graveyard, you can banish this and any other number of cubics, and put cubic counters on your opponent's monsters, up to however many cubics you banish. So it can be good if you need to stall, if you've already used this and made this 6,000, and then you get, like, Mirror Forced or something. Or you can just, like, banish Crimson Nova along with this, and put cubic counters on their monsters, which, if you don't remember, negates their effects and makes it so they can't attack. The one Upstart Goblin, just because this was a 39 card deck and I needed 1 extra card. If you were playing this more competitively, you probably wouldn't want this in here, just because you're trying to burn and it gives life points, but you do so much damage it doesn't really matter. Cubic Karma, in addition to be your searcher, when you activate it, you can target 1 cubic monster, send as many of these from your deck to the graveyard as you want, and that monster gains 800 attack for each. So that's pretty good. You can give something up to 2,400 attack, which really makes this guy a beat stick, and can make this even more unstoppable. By putting these in the graveyard, and then that sort of sets up if you want to use these guys. Normally I don't use that effect, or I just use 1 or 2, whatever I need to get over whatever monster they have. More than likely this is going to be in the graveyard used for searching. Likewise, you can fusion summon with this, but if it's in the graveyard it has the effect that if one of your cubics leaves the field because of something your opponent does, and that includes like shuffling into the deck, banishing it, sending it back to the hand, any way it leaves the field, you can banish this and special summon another cubic from your deck, ignoring its summoning conditions, and that card can't be destroyed by battle or card effects that turn. So this is your great stall card. Most of the time if you end up going first, you do Duja. Duja sends Unification, and then no matter how they try to get rid of this, if they battle or banish or destroy, whatever, you can just summon up another Duja, put another one of these in the graveyard, or put one of these in the graveyard to help search, because that second Duja you summon is not going to be destroyed by anything that turn. So this is really good to have in the graveyard, and this works with like Crimson Nova too. Sometimes I'll put this in the graveyard, or I'll destroy it with my own Galaxy Cyclone. Just in case this gets destroyed, then I have some kind of backup recovery. And that's pretty much it. I already went over these burn cards. Everything else is just sort of a toolbox. Super Dreadnought, because these are level 10, you can make this and just do extra burn damage. It's particularly useful if you don't want to take that 3,000 yourself, if you can't take it, and you have 2 of these, you can go this and just do 2,000 instead. Also, key to note, with the way fusion conscription is worded, it says after you activate this, you can't activate the effects of the monster that you added. So if you already have a Crimson Nova and you summon it and you attack and do your stuff, and then the burn damage would kill you, you can activate fusion conscription and add another Crimson Nova, and then because you can't activate effects anymore this turn, you won't inflict the damage to you or your opponent. So it's a good way to save yourself. You can also, because this is one, you can always send that to the graveyard to summon this. Not the most optimal strategy, but if it keeps you from dying, it keeps you from dying. Finally, I guess I should mention this, because it is possible to bring out, and if you can bring it out, this thing is like nigh unstoppable. Can't be targeted or destroyed by your opponent's card effects. When it declares an attack, halve your opponent's life points. When it destroys a monster by battle, it can attack again, and if you take effect damage, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the damage you took. So this thing is just like ridiculous. If you can get this out, you pretty much win, unless you get hit by Honest or something like that. Finally, we have the side deck, which I'm just going to mention really quickly because this is already kind of a long video, but these are complex. Things I would actually consider in the side deck: 3 Forbidden Lance. This thing's weak to spell traps. I had more problem with Solemn Strikes than anything, so I did the Galaxy Cyclone, but if you're running to someone who's playing like Trap Holes or something else, this can be a little bit better. Everything else in here is just sort of like alternate options depending on what you want to do. If you wanted to make this more competitive, there's some one-ofs that work really great in here. Mathematician, Foolish Burial, 1-for-1. All of these can be really good, both for deck thinning and for getting your cubic seeds in the graveyard or on the field. I just don't like to play one-ofs, as people who are familiar with the show already know. If you wanted to cut out the burn and just make this a really fast, like, cubic Nova beatdown, then Hand Destruction actually works pretty good in this deck. You've got a lot of stuff that can be used from the graveyard or is more useful in the graveyard, so running these is very, very good. If you wanted to go extreme with the burn, then Trap Hole of Spikes, I would recommend this over Magic Cylinder because it doesn't target, so it works against more things. Just when a monster that was normal or special summon this turn declares an attack, destroy it and inflict damage to your opponent equal to half of the original attack. So maybe you want to take out your Ceasefires because they don't swarm, they just have high attack monsters. Or, again, if you just want to go full burn, take out like the Dark World dealings, put in Trap Hole of Spikes and just give them that extra burn damage. Finally, if you wanted to use more of like the other ones, like the Buster Cubic, and you wanted to make this more of a pure Cubic deck, maybe take out like the Fusion Conscriptions or something, put in Stygian Security. This will let you summon your cubic seeds to the field faster, and then just an extra copy of Blade and Buster. Oh, Buster Blade. I didn't even notice that at first. But yeah, extra copies of those, that'll help your cubics go a little bit faster. So there you go, there's your deck profile. Next week, I have no idea what I'm doing yet. Should be a surprise. Until then, good luck, have fun.